Some scars don't fade. Some battles aren't fought on the battlefield, but in the mind. And sometimes, the greatest opponent isn't the one standing in front of you. It's the voice in your head telling you you're not enough. This is the story of Infernape, the Pokémon who had to fight for more than just victory. He had to fight to reclaim himself. So that's the best you can do? You're pathetic, just like always. In 30 seconds, this man is about to get every single word, because what happens next isn't just a win. It's the moment Infernape proves to himself and to the world that he was never weak to begin with. But to understand why this moment means everything, we have to rewind 185 episodes to a time when the Pokémon was broken, discarded, and left to believe he was worthless. To understand why Infernape's battle against Paul was more than just a fight, we have to understand who Paul was and why he was a perfect foil to Ash. Because Paul wasn't just a rival, Paul was everything Ash wasn't. Where Ash believed in bonds, Paul believed in power. Where Ash nurtured his Pokémon, Paul discarded them like broken tools. And in the middle of this ideology war, stood one Pokémon caught between them, Chimchar. Paul didn't believe in growth, he believed in results. If a Pokémon wasn't strong now, it wasn't worth his time. If a technique didn't work immediately, it was worthless. If Chimchar couldn't activate Blaze on command, then it was just another failed experiment. And so, Paul trained him like a weapon, not a partner. Forced battles, strikes meant to push him to the brink, attacks from his own teammates designed to break his limits or break him completely. Because in Paul's eyes, if you can't endure suffering, you don't deserve power. And let's be honest, how many of us internalize that same philosophy? We tell ourselves, if I can't succeed immediately, maybe I never will. If I struggle, then maybe I'm just not meant for this. If I'm not the best, then what's the point? But Chimchar's story proves that this mindset is flawed. Chimchar tried, he battled harder, he followed every order. He pushed himself beyond exhaustion just to please Paul. And yet, no matter how much he gave, it was never enough. Until one day, after collapsing from exhaustion, Paul simply walked away. No anger, no frustration, just indifference. And that is what truly broke Chimchar. Because the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. Paul didn't just reject him, he made Chimchar feel like it was never enough, never worth caring about in the first place. And that's the kind of pain that lingers, the kind that stays with you long after the bruises heal. How do you recover from that? How do you move forward when the one person who was supposed to believe in you gave up on you? Here's the truth. Sometimes we attach our worth to the wrong people, to the wrong validation, to the wrong expectations. And when those people turn their back on us, we start to believe the worst things they ever said. That we're weak, that we'll never be enough, that we're just not built for success. But Chimchar's story reminds us of something crucial. Just because someone doesn't see your worth doesn't mean you don't have any. And just because you weren't enough for them doesn't mean you're not enough for yourself. Because true strength isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving to ourselves that they were never right. Some wounds take time to heal. It's easy to think that leaving a toxic situation means the pain disappears. That once you step away, the damage fades. that moving forward is as simple as walking away. But that's not how trauma works. And Chimchar was about to learn that firsthand. After Paul abandoned him, Ash gave Chimchar a second chance. For the first time, Chimchar had a trainer who cared about him, a team that welcomed him, a place where he was wanted. But Paul's voice still lived in his head. He second-guessed himself. He hesitated before attacking, afraid of failing. And in the moments of struggle, he braced himself, not for impact, but for rejection. Because when you spend so long trying to be good enough for someone else, you forget how to just be yourself. And this is something so many people experience. You finally get into a healthy relationship, but you still expect them to leave. You start a new job, but you still feel you're not qualified. You skip a bad environment, but the self-doubt follows you. Because the harshest voices aren't the ones around us. Sometimes, they're the ones we carry with us, even when they are gone. Chimchar's first battle on the Ash was a struggle. Even as the team cheered for him, even as Ash encouraged him, he still hesitated. Why? Because Paul had conditioned him to equate failure with worthlessness. And even though Ash wasn't Paul, Chimchar still expected disappointment. That's the thing about trauma. It doesn't just go away. Even when the threat is gone, the fear of it lingers. And that is why healing isn't about simply moving on. It's about learning to trust again. The trust that mistakes don't make you weak. The trust that struggle isn't failure. The trust that you're more than just your pain. This is what made Ash different from Paul. He didn't push Chimchar through fear. He didn't demand results through pain. Instead, he taught Chimchar something special. That strength and kindness are not opposites. That you don't have to suffer alone. That you don't have to prove your worth through pain. That you are valuable, not because of what you can do, but because of who you are. And for Chimchar, this was the hardest lesson to accept. Because when you've spent so long thinking you have earned love, being given it freely feels unbelievable. So many of us carry Chimchar's struggle. We've been hurt, we've been doubted, we've been told, either by others or by ourselves, that we aren't enough. And even when we find support, we resist it. We think we don't deserve kindness. We assume people will leave the moment we mess up. We push away those trying to help because we're afraid of being hurt again. But true strength isn't just about enduring pain. It's allowing yourself to accept love. Because healing isn't just about fighting alone. It's about realizing you don't have to. Chimchar steadily was making progress, but there was one battle left. He had to overcome Paul's training. He had escaped Paul's control. He had overcome Paul's training. He had escaped Paul's control. But to truly move forward, he would have to face Paul himself. Not for revenge, not for validation, but to finally prove to himself that he had always been enough. Sometimes, battles aren't about winning. They're about proving to yourself that you are not who you used to be. Chimchar had escaped Paul. He had grown stronger. But now, he had to do the one thing he never thought he could. Face Paul, not as a victim, but as his equal. Seeing Paul again, the fear returned. Not because Paul could still hurt him, but because some wounds feel fresh the moment you see the person who caused them. Whether it's that ex who said you'll never be good enough, that teacher who made you feel small, that parent who never believed in you. Even if you moved on, their words linger. And for a moment, Chimchar felt it. The doubt, the fear. But if he lost now, wouldn't that mean Paul was right? Chimchar wasn't just fighting Paul. He was fighting who he used to be. The version of himself who flinched at every command. The one who braced for pain instead of fighting back. And doubt only needs one moment to make you forget how far you've come. It doesn't matter what he thinks. You're not battling for him anymore. You're battling for yourself. These were the words of Ash, his new partner. That's why support matters. Because when your own voice falters, the right people remind you who you've become. Paul's voice had always been one of criticism, but Ash reminded Chimchar of the truth. That his strength didn't come from Paul. That he had already proven himself just by standing here. That this fight wasn't about proving Paul wrong, but proving himself right. And with this realization, something changed. Chimchar wasn't reacting to Paul anymore. He was in control. Then it happened. Blaze. The very power Paul tried to force out of him, Chimchar unlocked on his own. Not through suffering, not through pain, but through acceptance. The strength had always been inside him. He just had to believe in it. At some point, we all face the past head-on. Seeing the person who doubted of you return to a place that hurt you. Revisiting a version of yourself that you thought you left behind. And in those moments, it's easy to feel like nothing has changed. But growth isn't about never feeling down. It's about choosing to move forward despite it. Because in the end, Paul was never the one holding Chimchar back. It was the voice Paul left behind. And when Chimchar let that go, Paul had no power over him anymore. He had finally won. Chimchar had broken free, but the journey wasn't over. Because now, it wasn't about escaping the past. It was about something even greater. Becoming the hero of his own story. Understand, some battles are about survival. Others, they're about proving once and for all who you really are. And this was it for Infernape, the Sinnoh League quarterfinals. The moment Infernape would face his past and his future. But the real battle wasn't against Paul. It was against the version of himself that Paul left behind. Because for the first time, Infernape wasn't just fighting to win. He was fighting to define himself on his own terms. In the battle, Electivire was relentless. Every attack, every blow, a reminder of the past Infernape has spent his whole life trying to escape. For a moment, it almost felt the same. The pressure, the expectation, the voice in his head telling him he wasn't enough. He wasn't here to prove anything to Paul. He wasn't here to chase approval. He was here because he belonged. And that's when it happened. Blaze ignited. Not from fear, not from pain, but from something much stronger. From trust and from self-belief. Paul had spent his whole life trying to force the power out of him. But Infernape didn't need Paul. He never did. And in that moment, the battle changed. Flames erupted around Infernape. Blaze activated. But this time, this wasn't a loss of control. This wasn't a breakdown. For the first time, Infernape didn't feel trapped inside his own power. He felt free. Blaze wasn't something Paul gave him. Blaze wasn't something Paul could control. It was his, and this time, he wasn't afraid of it. The moment of true strength, and remember, strength is more than power. Electrified thunder punch, Infernape's flare blitz. One final clash, and then silence. Electrified collapses. Infernape remains standing. Paul is defeated. But the real victory, it wasn't about beating Paul. It was about proving to himself that he never needed Paul to begin with. There comes a moment in life when you stop proving people wrong and start proving yourself right. Not for validation, not for revenge, because you deserve to believe in your own strength. Paul's approval was never what Infernape needed. He needed to trust himself, because the strongest people aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who get back up on their own terms. And so, Ash wins, Infernape wins, and Paul watches in silence. And then, for the first time in the entire series, good luck. 2 words, that's all he says. Paul, the man who had done nothing but criticize, control, and belittle Infernape, finally acknowledges him. And the best part, Infernape didn't need it anymore. Paul's words no longer matter, because this victory, this was for him. At some point, we all face our Paul. The boss who said you weren't good enough. The friend who abandoned you when you needed them most. The part of yourself that whispers, you'll never make it. And when the moment comes, you have 2 choices. Keep fighting for their approval, or realize you never needed it to begin with. Because your strength doesn't come from proving others wrong. It comes from you believing in yourself. And once you do, nobody can take that away from you. This is why Infernape's story is more than just a Pokémon. It's a lesson in growth, in overcoming trauma, and choosing your own path. And that's why, to this day, Infernape's story isn't just one of the best Pokemon arcs. It's one of the best 0 to hero stories in all of anime. I'll always rate him because of it. Thank you for listening to today. I really love Infernape as a Pokemon, and he is my favorite Pokemon of all the Pokemon series. I really wonder what yours is and the reason why. Drop that in the comments below. Once again, thank you for watching. If you have any other characters you want me to look into, let me know down in the comments below. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.